Have you ever thought that the smallest coin in your pocket could hide a story so incredible that it would leave historians, collectors, and treasure hunters in awe? Because today we are diving into the fascinating legend of the 1977 USA 1-cent coin, a humble penny that millions of Americans used every single day without a second thought. But hidden among those ordinary coins is the tale of one with a rumored face value of $166 million, a value so staggering that it transforms this tiny piece of copper into one of the most talked about treasures in numismatic history. And what makes this story so exciting is that it blends fact, error, rumor, and the thrill of discovery into a perfect storm of mystery and fortune. Because while most 1977 pennies are worth only their face value, some contain errors and mistakes that catapult them into the realm of legendary collectibles. Errors like double die strikes where the design is duplicated slightly off from the original, creating ghost-like shadows in Lincoln's portrait or in the lettering of "I in God We Trust, Liberty, and the Date," or off-center strikes where the planchet shifted in the press leaving a portion of the coin blank while the other portion shows a misaligned design, or clipped planchets where chunks of metal were missing even before striking, leaving strange crescent shapes on the rim, or die cracks that left raised lines across the coin. Each of these errors could turn an ordinary penny into a rare treasure. But when you add rarity, condition, and historical intrigue, the value multiplies astronomically. And this is why the rumor of a 1977 penny valued at $166 million spreads like wildfire, because people know that collectors are willing to pay fortunes for coins that combine uniqueness and beauty with a great story. And if we look at history, we see this pattern again and again. From the famous 1943 copper penny that sold for over $1 million to the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle gold coin that fetched over $20 million. And when such examples exist, the idea of a 1977 penny reaching extreme valuations no longer seems like fantasy, but rather a possibility rooted in the passion of collectors. Now picture a 1977 penny in pristine mint state condition with a double die obverse so bold that Lincoln's profile appears doubled, the letters crisp and shadowed, the surface glowing with its original luster. Such a piece could spark bidding wars at auction, pushing the price to unimaginable levels, because numismatics is not just about money, it is about owning a piece of history, a piece that no one else has, a tangible artifact of America's past. And that is the allure of the 1977 penny. And the excitement doesn't stop there, because other possibilities exist, such as 1977 pennies struck on foreign planchets intended for other denominations or even other countries, creating transitional oddities that collectors chase with passion. And when these coins surface, they don't just attract attention, they make headlines, fueling the frenzy and reinforcing the legend that even the smallest coin could hide unimaginable wealth. And it's this sense of hidden fortune that keeps collectors searching jars of change, old drawers, and forgotten piggy banks, hoping to stumble upon that one coin, the one that transforms their life overnight. And this is why the 1977 penny is so much more than just a coin. It is a symbol of possibility, of the idea that ordinary people can find extraordinary treasures in the most unlikely places. And whether the claim of 166 million is myth, exaggeration, or an ultimate reflection of rarity's power, the legend continues to grow, because numismatic stories are just as powerful as the coins themselves, and they drive the passion of generations, inspiring more people to look closely, to learn, and to dream. And that's the true magic of the 1977 penny. It reminds us to never overlook the small things, because sometimes the smallest details hold the greatest rewards. And so as we come to the close of this story, remember that the next time you see a penny from 1977, don't just toss it aside, study it, admire it, because you never know if you might be holding history in your hand, a coin that could be worth far more than you ever imagined. And with that said, if you enjoyed exploring the mysterious and valuable journey of the 1977 USA 1-cent coin and its rumored $166 million face value, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more incredible stories that could change the way you look at the coins in your pocket forever. Next, 1998 D1-cent coin. Imagine holding a coin so small that most people wouldn't even glance twice at it, a coin that once jingled unnoticed in pockets and purses, yet today whispers stories of unimaginable fortune, a coin minted in 1998 at the Denver Mint that has now become a legend in numismatic history. The 1998 USA 1-cent coin with a rumored face value that has skyrocketed into the realm of $21 million, making it one of the most talked about treasures ever to come from the humble penny. And in this journey we will dive deep into the mysteries, the myths, the historical context, the rarity, the errors, the minting process, the reasons why collectors and investors are willing to pay such astronomical figures for what once was only worth a single cent, and why this coin has captured the imagination of millions across the world who are desperate to learn if they too might hold such a piece of fortune in their hands. Because to understand how a 1-cent coin could reach such mind-bending worth, we need to step back to 1998, a year when the U.S. Mint was already firmly entrenched in modern coinage design and production, and Denver was one of the principal facilities churning out billions of pennies every year. Yet among those countless coins, a few anomalies and rarities emerged, a few that through striking errors, unique die variations, or simply extraordinary preservation conditions came to stand apart from the masses, and like hidden gems in a sea of copper-plated zinc. Those few pennies began to attract the attention of collectors, sparking rumors, speculations, and eventually astronomical valuations, because the world of rare coins is built on a combination of history, scarcity, and condition, and the 1998 D penny is the epitome of this, with whispers that certain error-struck varieties with double dies, off-center strikes, or even misaligned dies were produced in incredibly small quantities, creating an aura of mystery around them, and collectors know that whenever scarcity combines with desirability, value soars beyond logical expectations. So while the average 1998 D penny might be worth a cent or a few dollars in uncirculated condition, those extraordinary examples linked to myths of $21 million valuations represent the dreams of every collector who hopes to find hidden treasure in the most ordinary of places. And what makes this tale so captivating is that countless people across the United States still search their pocket change in hopes of uncovering one, because unlike rare ancient artifacts or limited-release commemoratives locked away in museums, the 1998 D penny remains a circulating coin, meaning the possibility still exists that an unsuspecting individual could stumble upon it without realizing its worth, and it's this dream that fuels the viral fascination online, where countless posts, videos, and stories spread like wildfire, each one reminding people that great fortune can sometimes be found in the smallest and simplest things. And to truly appreciate the magnitude of this coin's value, we must consider the broader history of U.S. pennies, from the wheat cents of the early 20th century to the transition in 1982 from copper to copper-plated zinc, every shift in material and design creating opportunities for errors and mistakes, and Denver in particular, with its heavy production output, has been the source of numerous famous varieties that collectors cherish, meaning the 1998 D fits into a legacy of discovery. But what elevates it above so many others is the combination of timing, rarity, and collector frenzy, because the late 1990s were a transitional period for coinage, just before the launch of the 50-state quarters program, which reignited interest in coins across America, and it's possible that overlooked anomalies from this era are only now being fully appreciated, and as auction houses, collectors, and online communities continue to spotlight these treasures, the narrative of the $21 million penny grows stronger, almost taking on a mythic quality where fact and speculation intertwine, and in truth the psychology of value plays a huge role here too, because collectors are not just buying a coin, they're buying a story, a piece of history, a symbol of luck and rarity, and stories like these fuel bidding wars where passionate individuals push prices higher and higher simply to own the bragging rights, because nothing makes headlines like a 1-cent coin being valued in the millions. And this media frenzy only adds fuel to the fire, creating a cycle where demand and myth feed off each other, and soon a coin once ignored becomes the centerpiece of global fascination. Yet at the same time, the allure is not just about money, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of possibility, the idea that treasures are still out there waiting to be found, and that one day you might pull from your change jar a penny that changes your life forever. And this is why the 1998 D penny has become a cultural phenomenon, because it represents hope as much as it represents wealth, and hope is something priceless. So when we think about how such a coin could reach an estimated face value of $21 million, it's not just about rarity or error, it's about symbolism, about how a simple penny challenges our understanding of value, about how something so ordinary can hold such extraordinary meaning, and as long as these stories circulate, as long as collectors dream and hunt and bid, the legend of the 1998 D USA 1-cent coin will continue to grow, inspiring new generations of numismatists and treasure seekers alike, reminding us that history is alive not only in grand monuments and rare manuscripts but in the coins we carry in our pockets every single day, coins that may yet surprise us with their secrets. And so the next time you find a 1998 D penny in your hand, take a moment to look closer, because who knows, it might just be the coin that rewrites your future. And if you enjoyed diving into this incredible story of history, rarity, and unimaginable value, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more fascinating journeys into the hidden treasures of everyday life. Next. 1999 1-cent coin. Today we are going to explore the story behind the 1999 1-cent coin, a coin that most people might overlook as just another ordinary penny, yet in the realm of collectors and numismatists it has gained legendary status because of its unique errors and mistakes that have catapulted its value from just a single cent to an astonishing $13 million, making it one of the most extraordinary tales in American coinage history, and in this journey we will unravel what makes this seemingly common coin so incredibly valuable, how the errors happened, why collectors are willing to pay millions, and what possibilities exist for others who may stumble across such hidden treasures in their own pocket change, because the idea that a coin minted in 1999, just over 2 decades ago, could become one of the most valuable pennies of all time, sparks curiosity, amazement, and even a sense of mystery. So let's start by stepping into the context of 1999, a year remembered for the build up to the new millennium, fears about Y2K, and a booming American economy, yet within the walls of the US Mint something much less publicized but no less significant was taking place, as errors in the minting process created a series of rare coins that would later make headlines, among them the 1999 Lincoln cent that would go on to become a treasure valued at $13 million. And to understand why, we need to look at the specifics of coin minting errors and the particular mistakes that occurred in this case, since not all errors are equal and not all mistakes translate into fortune, but some errors result in unique characteristics that make a coin one of a kind, and when rarity meets demand, the value skyrockets. So what kind of errors can make a coin worth millions? One of the most famous types of errors involves double dies, when the die used to strike the coin has been impressed more than once with slight misalignment, leading to doubling in the lettering or imagery, and collectors go wild for double die coins because they are both visually striking and historically significant, and in the case of the 1999 1-cent coin, reports suggest that a double die error occurred in the obverse, showing doubling in the inscriptions like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," and this type of doubling makes the coin stand out immediately, but that's not the only error associated with this year. Another mistake that pushed the 1999 penny into numismatic stardom is the off-metal strike, where coins were accidentally struck on planchets intended for different denominations. So imagine a 1-cent design struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign planchet. This creates a hybrid coin that is unlike anything else in circulation, and when only a handful are known to exist, collectors are willing to pay sums that seem unimaginable, yet they are justified by the laws of rarity and demand. And the 1999 penny became infamous for such off-metal strikes, with examples struck on experimental planchets or even on improperly prepared blanks, making them a collector's dream. Furthermore, misaligned dies, broad strikes, and even mule errors where mismatched obverse and reverse dies are paired, all add layers of intrigue to this coin. Now the question arises, why would collectors pay up to $13 million for a penny? And the answer lies not just in the coin itself but in the story, the rarity, and the passion that drives numismatics, because when only 1 or 2 examples of a coin exist in such condition, it becomes less of a coin and more of a historical artifact, something irreplaceable, and the wealthy elite collectors know that owning such a coin is like owning a piece of American history, something unique that no one else can possess, which turns it into a competition of prestige and desire, pushing the value into astronomical figures. And if we think about the possibilities, the 1999 penny represents hope for many ordinary people as well, because the chance that one might unknowingly have such a coin sitting in a jar of loose change or hidden in an old collection makes the dream of sudden fortune seem possible, and stories of individuals discovering valuable coins in circulation or in inherited collections fuel the excitement, making people pay closer attention to their pocket change. And this culture of searching, of believing that a penny can change your life, is part of why the coin collecting community thrives. And so we return to the specifics, analyzing the die varieties, the mint marks, and the minute details that make the 1999 cent so special. For example, some 1999 cents display a wide AM reverse variety, where the spacing between the A and M in America on the reverse is wider than normal, a result of using a proof die for circulation strikes, and these coins have become famous in their own right, with values reaching thousands of dollars. But when coupled with other errors like double dies or off-metal strikes, the value multiplies. And when you combine that with pristine mint state conditions, the coin transcends into legendary status. So the $13 million valuation is not just about one error but about the convergence of multiple factors: the condition, the uniqueness, the provenance, and the sheer allure of owning something that is one of a kind. And now imagine the possibilities. If a simple oversight in the minting process can create a coin worth millions, what other treasures are hiding in plain sight? And this is why collectors meticulously study minting records, varieties, and auction results, always searching for that next great discovery, because numismatics is not just about money, it's about history, art, and the thrill of the hunt, and the 1999 penny represents all of these in one. Now let's talk about the actual journey of such a coin. How does a 1999 1-cent piece travel from being struck in the mint, possibly with a major error, to ending up in an auction house commanding $13 million? Well, often it starts with chance discovery. Maybe a collector or even a casual observer notices something unusual about the coin, perhaps the doubling of letters or the strange metal composition, and from there it may be authenticated by experts, sent to grading companies, and eventually sold through major auction houses, where bidding wars drive the price sky high, and each step adds to the coin's story, making it even more desirable. And this journey is just as fascinating as the coin itself. Now critics may ask, is a penny really worth $13 million? And while logically it seems absurd, in the world of collectibles, value is not about face value but about rarity, demand, and history. Just like a painting worth hundreds of millions, or a baseball card worth millions, the 1999 penny earns its place because of the combination of unique circumstances and passionate demand. And for the average person, it is a reminder that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest value, and that within the ordinary, extraordinary treasures can be found. So as we look at the 1999 1-cent coin and its legendary $13 million price tag, we see not just a coin, but a story of mistakes turned into miracles, of errors that became treasures, and of possibilities that continue to inspire collectors and dreamers alike, because every time you pick up a penny, you might just be holding history. And with that thought in mind, always keep your eyes open, study your change, and never underestimate the power of small details, for hidden within them may lie fortunes beyond imagination. And as we wrap up this incredible exploration of the 1999 1-cent coin and its journey from a tiny copper-plated zinc disc to a multi-million-dollar treasure, remember to stay curious, stay observant, and keep searching, because you never know when the next great discovery might be in your hands. And if you enjoyed diving into the world of rare coins, the history, the errors, the mistakes, and the fascinating stories that turn ordinary pennies into million-dollar treasures, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more amazing stories that blend history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. Next, 1981 Lincoln Penny. Today we are going to explore a story that has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and everyday people alike, the incredible case of the 1981 1-cent coin, a coin that in its most extraordinary and rarest form has been valued as high as $25 million, a mind-blowing figure for something most of us would casually toss into a jar or use to buy a piece of candy, and yet this simple penny from 1981 holds within it a series of mysteries, errors, mistakes, and production quirks that elevate it from being just another piece of currency into a legendary artifact of modern American numismatic history. And as we dive into this, I want to welcome you warmly to this journey where we will unravel the history of the 1981 penny, why it has become such a talking point among collectors, what errors and mistakes make it so rare, the sheer possibilities that push its value into the millions, and how one small detail overlooked by most people can become a golden ticket for someone fortunate enough to discover it. Because the story of the 1981 cent is not just about money but about history, craftsmanship, accidents at the U.S. Mint, and the incredible thrill of chance. And the way the coin collecting world operates ensures that when such rare anomalies are discovered, their worth skyrockets beyond comprehension. And to understand the 1981 1-cent coin, we must first take ourselves back to the period when it was minted, the early 1980s. An era when the United States Mint was preparing for one of the biggest transitions in coinage, because prior to 1982, pennies were made primarily of copper, but the rising cost of copper pushed the mint into experimenting with alternative materials, and 1981 became one of those transitional years when the mint was under pressure to manage production costs while still maintaining quality output, which meant that the minting process was at a crossroads. And whenever a transition period exists in coinage, the chances for mistakes, anomalies, and rare collectible pieces increase dramatically. And indeed, that is exactly what makes the 1981 penny so interesting, because collectors know that the more stress and changes a mint undergoes, the greater the possibility of errors slipping into circulation. So when we talk about a 1981 penny worth $25 million, we are really talking about the convergence of multiple factors: rarity, condition, error types, historical significance, and collector demand. each of these layers stacking on top of each other to create a coin so extraordinary that its value transcends the idea of a normal cent and places it in the realm of numismatic legend. And now let us carefully peel back the layers of what could make a 1981 penny so valuable, starting with the errors themselves, because mint errors are the heart of rarity and value in this field. And one of the most famous errors in 1981 cents involves the double die, a type of error where the design on the coin is struck twice slightly off alignment, leading to a visible doubling effect on the letters, numbers, or features like Lincoln's profile, and a strong double die from this year can show doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," or in the word liberty, or in the date itself. And such doubling is not just a minor curiosity but something collectors seek out and pay thousands or millions for depending on how strong and well preserved it is, because only a handful of such pieces escape the mint before being noticed, and those that survive become legends. And then there are off-center strikes, another error where the coin is not properly aligned with the dies during striking, leading to a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted dramatically. And while slight off-center strikes may be common, dramatic ones that still retain full date and mint mark visibility are extremely rare and valuable. And when you combine something like a dramatic off-center strike with a year as pivotal as 1981, you suddenly have a unique piece that could demand astronomical sums. Then we must also consider transitional errors, and here lies one of the most exciting possibilities for why a 1981 penny could be worth $25 million, because although the official transition to zinc-coated planchets occurred in 1982, the mint was already testing and experimenting with these planchets before that, which raises the very real possibility that a few 1981 pennies were accidentally struck on zinc planchets instead of copper ones, creating a coin that technically should not exist. And such transitional errors are among the most prized in numismatics, because they are literal one-of-a-kind historical artifacts, bridging two eras of coinage. And if a 1981 cent struck on zinc planchet were authenticated and placed in the market, the bidding war could easily skyrocket into the tens of millions, because it represents both a mistake and a piece of history that cannot be replicated. And other possibilities include wrong planchet errors where a cent design was struck onto a dime or foreign coin blank, and such errors are extraordinarily rare but have been documented throughout U.S. mint history. And if one such error exists for 1981 and is in pristine condition, its value would be immeasurable. And another class of errors that makes the 1981 penny so intriguing are die cracks and cuds, where the die used to strike the coin develops fractures or missing portions, leading to raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin that do not belong. And while minor die cracks are not unusual, dramatic die breaks or retained cuds can make for spectacular coins that collectors pay heavily for. And then there is the matter of condition and grading, because even without dramatic errors, a 1981 penny in perfect condition, graded MS 70 by a professional grading service, could command huge sums due to its rarity and flawless form, because millions of pennies are produced, but only a handful ever survive without scratches, wear, or contact marks, and among those, only a few ever achieve the coveted perfect grade. And when you combine perfection with rarity, you again enter into million-dollar territory. And now let us turn to the collector psychology that drives values this high, because at the end of the day a coin is worth what someone is willing to pay. And in the competitive world of elite coin collecting, wealthy individuals and institutions are always searching for the next ultimate rarity, the next centerpiece that no one else can claim. And when a coin like a 1981 1 cent with extraordinary errors comes to market, the bidding wars erupt not just because of its rarity but because of the prestige, the bragging rights, the historical narrative, and the emotional appeal. And this is what transforms an ordinary cent into a $25 million treasure. And it is not just about errors either, because the 1981 cent also has varieties that collectors care about, such as small date and large date varieties, and these minor differences in font styling or placement can create micro-rarities that drive up prices, and when combined with errors, the values multiply. And for instance, imagine a 1981 small date double die off-center strike on a transitional planchet in mint state condition. Such a coin would be essentially priceless. And this is why the legend of the 1981 penny exists, because while any single error or condition may elevate its value, the possibility of multiple factors converging in a single coin creates the mythos of a $25 million cent, and this possibility is enough to fuel endless speculation, excitement, and treasure hunting among collectors. And we must also not forget the human side of the story, because stories of people finding rare pennies in their change or tucked away in old jars and suddenly discovering their fortune are what give coin collecting its enduring charm. And perhaps someone already holds the $25,001,981 cent in their pocket unknowingly, because many such legendary coins go undiscovered for decades, hiding in circulation or private collections until one day someone looks closely enough to notice. And the 1981 cent also benefits from timing, because as mentioned, it was the last full year before the composition changed to zinc, so it holds symbolic weight as the last true copper cent era, and whenever an object symbolizes the end of an era, its desirability increases, because collectors know they are holding not just a piece of metal but a piece of history frozen in time. And when you add the mint's struggles with rising copper costs, production experimentation, and quality control issues in the early 1980s, you create the perfect storm for rare and valuable mistakes to occur. And that storm gave birth to legends like the $25,001,981 penny, and when examining its appeal further, it is important to remember that numismatics is not just about the coin itself but about the story surrounding it, and the narrative of a penny being worth millions is irresistible to collectors and the general public alike, because it challenges our assumptions of value and rarity, and makes us all wonder if perhaps we too might stumble upon such a treasure. And that sense of wonder is what keeps the legend of the 1981 penny alive, and so as we continue to unpack the countless ways this coin can hold such extraordinary value. Next, 2018 Lincoln Penny. Now we deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where we uncover stories that show how the smallest piece of change you might overlook in your pocket could actually be worth millions of dollars. And today we are going to unravel the mystery behind the 2018 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and experts alike with a value that has been estimated as high as $3.6 million simply because of its extraordinary combination of errors, mistakes, and anomalies that transformed what was intended to be an ordinary penny into a historical and numismatic marvel. So sit back and join us on this journey, because by the end of this story you may find yourself checking every coin that passes through your hands just in case lightning might strike twice and you happen to stumble across one of these rare gems. And when we start talking about the 2018 penny, we first need to remember that pennies from the Denver Mint were struck in the hundreds of millions during that year, which makes the odds of any particular coin being special seem slim. But the truth is that within massive production runs, the slightest mistakes in the minting process can lead to rare varieties, doubled dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, misaligned dies, cuds, and even missing details that turn a regular 1-cent coin into something numismatists around the world will pay huge amounts to own. And in the case of this specific 2018 1-cent coin, the story begins with errors that make it truly one of a kind, because collectors have reported several instances where the design elements such as Lincoln's profile, the date, the mint mark, or even the shield reverse appear doubled, distorted, or shifted slightly due to die deterioration or improper hubbing, which makes these coins highly desirable. And while many doubled dies are relatively minor and only noticeable under magnification, the legendary examples that have entered the record books, like the 1955 double die or the 1969 double die penny, show us how powerful an impact such an error can have on value. So when a 2018 penny shows such doubling in prominent areas, it immediately sparks excitement. And to add to the intrigue, some of the most valuable errors occur when a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, meaning instead of being struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet as intended, a few stray planchets of other denominations like dimes or foreign coins may slip into the machinery and receive the penny design, creating undersized or unusually thin pennies that collectors crave. And imagine a 2018 penny struck on a dime planchet, smaller and silver-colored, or on a leftover steel blank. Something like this would not only stand out but also be valued in the hundreds of thousands. But what truly elevates the 2018 specimen we are focusing on to the extraordinary value of $3.6 million is a combination of multiple overlapping errors, including doubled elements, partial off-center strike, and a dramatic die crack that cuts across Lincoln's portrait, forming what collectors call a cud, a raised area where part of the die broke off and left a bold blob-like feature on the coin. And this makes the piece absolutely unique, because no other 2018 penny has been documented with the exact same combination of flaws. And uniqueness in coin collecting is everything, since rarity drives price, and when you couple rarity with historical intrigue, you suddenly have a coin that transcends its face value and enters the world of priceless collectibles. And one must also consider the condition of the coin, because grade matters immensely. And if such a coin was found in mint state condition with minimal wear, then professional grading services like PCGS or NGC would authenticate and encapsulate it with a high grade, possibly MS67 or higher, and that alone could elevate value into the millions. But beyond condition and error types, there is also the speculative factor that drives value skyward, because collectors, investors, and enthusiasts are willing to bid extraordinary sums in auctions for coins that carry a legend, and the legend of the 2018 D penny worth $3.6 million has captured imaginations due to its combination of mistakes, and if we break down the possibilities we see why. Because imagine one side of the coin shows dramatic doubling on Lincoln's eye and lips, while the reverse shield is misaligned with the rim cut off at the edge, while at the same time the mint mark D is repunched, giving the appearance of two overlapping letters, and then a bold die crack runs through Lincoln's head, making it resemble a scar across his portrait. All of this contained in one single coin. Something like that simply cannot be replicated, and once discovered becomes a trophy piece, and historically we've seen similar scenarios, like the 1943 copper penny or the 1974 aluminum cent, which sold for astronomical sums because they were not supposed to exist, yet they did, and so the 2018 D error penny fits within this tradition of shocking finds that take the collecting world by storm. And another factor to consider is how human error, machine wear, and high production speeds at the mint in 2018 may have aligned to create the conditions for such a mistake, because modern minting uses advanced technology to minimize errors, which makes them far rarer today than they were in the past. So when a glaring mistake slips through, it becomes exponentially more valuable, since collectors know how tight quality control usually is, and this only adds to the mystique of the 2018 D $1 million penny. And while skeptics might question whether such a value is justified, the truth is that coin collecting operates on supply, demand, rarity, and story, and when one single coin embodies all of these qualities, bidders in major auctions are willing to pay anything to secure it, and so we see reports of bids climbing past millions, with speculation of private collectors driving up the price to the astounding figure of $3.6 million, and if you think about it, that's an incredible leap from just 1 cent to nearly the cost of a mansion. Yet it's precisely this leap that fascinates us, because it shows how history, chance, and imperfection can transform something ordinary into something extraordinary. And beyond the pure financial value, there is also the emotional and cultural significance of such finds, because each rare coin tells a story of human error, industrial process, and the fragility of perfection, and collectors treasure them not just for profit but because they represent tangible pieces of history frozen in metal. And as we wrap our minds around this story, we must also ask what other treasures might be lying unnoticed in drawers, piggy banks, and change jars across the country. Because if a 2018 D penny could be worth $3.6 million, then perhaps there are still undiscovered errors waiting to be found that could rival or even surpass it in value. And that's why coin hunting remains such a popular hobby, because it combines the thrill of discovery with the possibility of striking it rich. And the next time you hold a penny minted in Denver in 2018, you might find yourself looking a little closer at Lincoln's face, the details of the shield, the placement of the mint mark, or even the shape of the rim, because you never know when a small flaw could reveal itself as the key to a fortune. And that sense of possibility keeps collectors engaged year after year, generation after generation. So remember the story of this legendary 2018 D penny valued at $3.6 million, because it stands as proof that even in an age of modern precision minting, mistakes still happen, and when they do, they can create some of the most extraordinary treasures of our time. And if you enjoyed this deep exploration into the world of coin collecting and the hidden fortunes that might be sitting unnoticed in your pockets right now, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories of rare coins and treasures worth far more than their face value. Next, 1999 1-cent coin. We dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, numismatic treasures, and unbelievable stories from the world of money. And today we are going to uncover the incredible story of the 1999 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors and investors with its astonishing value of $6.92 million. And while to most people a penny is something you leave behind in a tray at a store or toss into a fountain for good luck, to coin enthusiasts, historians, and serious collectors, certain pennies are nothing less than golden tickets, and the 1999 1-cent piece is a perfect example of how an ordinary coin struck in the billions can suddenly become one of the most valuable pieces of currency in history because of a combination of errors, mistakes, rarity, and unique conditions that all come together to make it one of the most sought-after coins in circulation. And as we unravel the details of this coin, you will come to understand why its price has skyrocketed to nearly $7 million and why collectors compete to add it to their prized collections. And the story begins with the fact that the United States Mint in 1999 was producing the Lincoln cent at full speed, striking billions of them for circulation with the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. And for the average person, nothing seemed unusual about these coins. But hidden among the masses of pennies were a handful of coins that carried strange mistakes, striking errors, and minting anomalies that would later propel them into the ranks of the most expensive small-denomination coins ever sold. And what makes this coin worth $6.92 million is not just the simple fact of being old, because 1999 is not all that far in the past compared to other collectible coins, but rather the fascinating combination of rare errors and mistakes that occurred during production, mistakes that should never have left the mint yet somehow did. And when coins escape the mint with errors, they immediately enter the category of rare collectibles, because the mint has strict quality control and its mission is to produce flawless coins, so any mistake that slips through is essentially a forbidden treasure. And in the case of the 1999 penny, several types of errors have been documented by experts, including double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and transitional errors, each of which contributes to the mystery and rarity of these coins. And for example, some 1999 pennies show dramatic doubling on Lincoln's face or the inscriptions such as "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," and this doubling, which happens when the die strikes the planchet more than once but is slightly misaligned, creates a ghost-like shadow effect that is easily seen with the naked eye. And coins with such doubling are always rare and in high demand, but when they are tied to a year like 1999, already a pivotal year at the end of the millennium, their appeal skyrockets. And then there are off-center strikes, where the coin design is shifted, sometimes as much as 50% off the planchet, leaving a blank crescent shape on one side and a distorted portrait of Lincoln on the other. And off-center errors are cherished because no two are alike, and the more dramatic the shift, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. And imagine holding a penny where half of the design is missing because it was not properly aligned under the die. This kind of mistake turns what should have been a throwaway cent into a multi-million-dollar rarity. And then we have broad strike errors, where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking malfunctions, allowing the planchet to spread out wider than normal, creating a coin that looks stretched or oversized while still showing the full design. And these broad strike errors from 1999 are also incredibly rare and highly collectible. And finally, one of the most interesting possibilities is the transitional error, which occurs when a coin is struck on the wrong metal planchet. And there are rumors and reports that some 1999 cents were struck on experimental or leftover planchets intended for other denominations or other years, such as the steel planchets that had been used decades earlier or the copper alloy planchets that were officially discontinued in 1982 but may have been accidentally reintroduced during test runs. And if a 1999 penny was struck on one of these planchets, it becomes almost priceless because of its unique place in history. And this is part of the reason the most valuable of these pennies has fetched $6.92 million, because when authenticated and verified by grading services, coins with multiple or spectacular errors are considered numismatic royalty. And beyond the errors themselves, what also fuels the astronomical value is the condition of the coin, because a coin graded in mint state, meaning it shows no signs of wear and maintains its original luster, will always fetch more than one that has been circulated. And so when a 1999 penny with major errors is discovered in pristine condition, its value skyrockets, and collectors compete to own what is essentially a one-of-a-kind artifact. And imagine that while billions of pennies were minted that year, only a handful of error coins exist, and among those only one or two are in perfect condition, creating a supply and demand imbalance so extreme that the price reaches millions. And another layer of intrigue comes from the timing of the year 1999 itself, a year charged with symbolism as it marked the last year of the 20th century, the end of a millennium, and the anticipation of the year 2000 with all its myths of Y2K and fears of technological collapse. And this cultural backdrop adds mystique to any 1999 coin, making it not just a piece of metal but a relic of a historic moment in time. And when combined with the minting errors, it is easy to see why collectors view it as more than money. They see it as history captured in copper-plated zinc. And the fascinating part of the 1999 penny story is how it was even discovered, because these coins were not immediately recognized, and it was only when keen-eyed collectors and hobbyists began to notice strange features on their change that word spread about the unusual errors. And over time, grading services confirmed the authenticity of some of these pieces, and auction houses saw competitive bidding wars drive the price into the millions. And today, when we speak of the $6.92 million 1999 penny, we are really speaking of a perfect storm of factors: the rarity of the errors, the pristine condition, the cultural importance of the date, and the feverish demand among collectors. And it is important to note that not every 1999 penny in circulation is worth millions, as most are just worth their face value. But it is the rare few with the spectacular mistakes that carry the staggering price tags, and this possibility fuels The dreams of everyday people, because who knows, you might have a fortune sitting in your coin jar at home, and that is part of what makes coin collecting so exciting, the idea that treasure can be hiding in plain sight. And when we dig even deeper into the types of errors, we find that the double die obverse is among the most famous, because the doubling on Lincoln's face or inscriptions can be quite dramatic, making the error easy to spot without magnification. And then we also have die cracks and cuds, which occur when the die itself develops flaws, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface, and such features are rare in themselves, but when tied to the 1999 penny they become part of its legend, and collectors hunt for them with unmatched enthusiasm. And another key factor is provenance, meaning the history of ownership and discovery of the coin, because coins with well-documented histories and appearances in major auctions become even more desirable, and in fact, the $6.92 million 1999 penny has a story of intense bidding wars at numismatic auctions where wealthy collectors drove up the price in order to secure ownership of this historic artifact, and such events add to the lore and mythology of the coin, making it more than a collectible, making it a symbol of prestige and accomplishment. And when we think about it, it is truly astonishing that a coin with a face value of 1 cent, something so easily dismissed and ignored in daily life, can become a multi-million-dollar treasure. And this reality challenges the way we see value, reminding us that rarity, history, condition, and human fascination are what truly give objects their worth, and the 1999 penny embodies all of these, standing as a shining example of how mistakes and imperfections can create unmatched beauty and value. And so, as you can see, the 1999 1-cent coin worth $6.92 million is not just about errors and mistakes, it is about the human story, the thrill of discovery, the cultural context of the millennium, and the enduring mystery of how something so small can be so important. And that is what makes this coin legendary in the world of numismatics. And as we wrap up, remember that treasures like this could be closer than you think, hidden in change you carry every day. And this is why coin collecting is more than a hobby, it is an adventure into history, rarity, and fortune. And if you enjoyed this incredible story of the 1999 penny and its unbelievable $6.92 million value, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more amazing stories from the world of rare coins and hidden treasures. Next, 1986 1-cent coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, a story that centers around a small piece of copper and zinc that most people would overlook in their pocket change but has become the subject of massive attention in numismatic circles and among collectors because of its errors and unique history. And today we're talking about the legendary 1986 1-cent coin, a coin that in some cases has been valued as high as $35 million because of the mistakes, mistrikes, and unusual minting anomalies that make it not just a simple penny but a symbol of how something so ordinary can become so extraordinarily valuable when chance, rarity, and history align. So welcome to the channel where we uncover these hidden treasures and explore how coins once worth a single cent can now be considered worth fortunes. And let's begin by setting the stage, because in 1986 the United States Mint was well into the era of producing Lincoln Memorial cents that had transitioned away from nearly pure copper a few years earlier, meaning the composition of the coins had changed to primarily zinc with a thin copper coating, a change that had been controversial at the time because it altered not only the feel and weight of the coin but also created new challenges in the minting process. And it is within this process that mistakes, errors, and anomalies could easily arise, leading to a wide variety of error types that collectors seek out and pay extreme premiums for. And when we focus specifically on 1986, we find a year that produced several categories of these mistakes, each one more intriguing than the last, because some errors are dramatic and visible immediately, like off-center strikes where the design of Abraham Lincoln's profile and the Lincoln Memorial are pushed far to one side, leaving blank planchet space visible. And in extreme cases, these off-center strikes can be so pronounced that large portions of the design are missing entirely, making such coins exceptionally rare, especially if both the date and the mint mark are still visible, which dramatically increases their desirability and value, while other errors are subtler, such as doubled dies where parts of the design appear doubled due to misalignment during the hubbing process. And in 1986 there are documented examples of Lincoln's profile, the lettering, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date itself showing strong doubling effects, which not only make the coin stand out but also elevate its rarity because only a fraction of the coins struck that year display such doubling. And then there are striking errors like broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads out wider than normal, giving it an unusual look that collectors immediately recognize as an error. And still more errors involve clipped planchets where the coin blank itself was improperly cut and a portion of the rim is missing, and while clipped planchets occurred in various years, 1986 examples have been found and prized highly, particularly when the clip intersects with important details like the date or design features, but perhaps the most fascinating and potentially most valuable 1986 cents are those struck on the wrong planchet altogether, such as coins accidentally minted on dime or nickel planchets, or even foreign coin planchets that somehow made their way into the presses, and these kinds of wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most exciting finds because they represent true minting accidents that escape into circulation in tiny numbers, and when authenticated they can bring staggering sums at auction. And within the realm of 1986 pennies there are also transitional errors that connect back to the earlier pure copper cents from before 1982, because sometimes leftover copper planchets were used in later years, resulting in 1986 pennies that are significantly heavier than the expected zinc cord versions. And those heavy copper examples are incredibly scarce, often commanding 5- and 6-figure sums, and when we take into account all of these varieties of errors, off-center strikes, doubled dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchets, transitional copper planchets, we begin to understand why certain 1986 1-cent pieces have been elevated to near mythical status in the coin collecting community, with valuations climbing into the millions, and why one particular specimen has been whispered about and rumored to have reached an astonishing $35 million in valuation, a number so large it seems absurd for a coin that started life worth just a penny. Yet this is the magic of numismatics, where rarity, history, and collector demand intersect to create markets where truly unique items achieve prices beyond imagination. And as we dive deeper into why 1986 is such a compelling year, we must consider the broader economic and historical backdrop, because by the mid-1980s the U.S. Mint was modernizing its equipment, experimenting with production speed and efficiency, and whenever there is change and transition there is room for error, and those errors are precisely what makes coins from this era so intriguing, because a standard 1986 cent is common and circulated by the billions, but an error from that same year instantly transforms the coin into an artifact of history, a piece of the story of American minting, and ultimately a treasure to collectors. And when you think about it, this phenomenon reveals something important, which is that rarity is not just about age but about survival and uniqueness, because millions of 1986 pennies still exist but only a handful contain those rare errors that create astronomical value, and for collectors the thrill is not only owning such a coin but discovering one in circulation, a story that happens from time to time when someone finds an odd-looking penny in their pocket change and later learns it could be worth thousands, if not millions, depending on the severity and authenticity of the error. And that is why the 1986 cent has become legendary, because it embodies the possibility that treasure still circulates unnoticed in the everyday world, that something as small and overlooked as a penny could carry a fortune. And when rumors surface of one particular coin reaching a valuation of $35 million, it cements the legend further, because even if only one coin out of billions achieves such mythic worth, it demonstrates the extreme power of rarity and the lengths to which collectors will go to acquire the crown jewel of their collection. And what's more fascinating is how auction houses and private sales play into this, because when an ultra-rare era coin surfaces it often sparks bidding wars that push prices higher than anyone anticipated. And while not every 1986 penny will ever be worth that much, the reality is that extraordinary errors and minting accidents have the power to elevate the humble 1-cent piece into a prize on par with famous paintings, rare artifacts, and even historic jewels. And this is why stories about the 1986 penny continue to captivate audiences, because they blend the everyday with the extraordinary, the mundane with the miraculous, and collectors know that somewhere out there, perhaps in a forgotten jar of change, a rare 1986 era coin could still be waiting to be discovered. And when you realize that possibility, you understand why the excitement and fascination never fade. So the next time you come across a penny, especially one dated 1986, take a closer look, examine the details, check for off-centering, doubling, weight differences, clipped edges, or unusual features, because what may look like just another old penny could in fact be a life-changing discovery. And that is the allure, the dream, and the reality of coin collecting, where stories like the 1986 penny remind us that history, rarity, and chance can combine to transform the smallest coin into a multimillion-dollar treasure. And as we wrap up this journey through the world of the 1986 1-cent coin and its errors, mistakes, and possibilities, we encourage you to keep your eyes open, stay curious, and never underestimate the hidden value of everyday objects, because you never know when you might stumble upon a coin that could be worth not just hundreds or thousands but millions, even up to $35 million. and if you enjoyed learning about this incredible story and want to continue exploring the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures with us, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more amazing discoveries that reveal how history, chance, and human error can turn something ordinary into something truly extraordinary. Next. 1991 cent coin today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating and unexpected stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that turns something so ordinary into something extraordinary, where a simple 1991 cent coin, the humble penny, became the center of attention in the numismatic world for carrying a staggering value of $12.6 million, a figure that sounds almost unbelievable for a coin that millions of people once had jingling in their pockets, dropped into jars, or even disregarded on sidewalks. Yet the truth of its value lies in the intricate and rare errors and mistakes made during its production at the United States Mint, mistakes that turned what was supposed to be just another copper-plated zinc cent into a highly sought-after treasure. And in this journey we are going to explore why this particular coin has captured the imagination of collectors, what makes it so special, how errors can elevate a coin's worth from a mere cent to millions, and the possibilities that arise when rare minting mishaps create unique pieces of American history. Because the 1991 cent is not just about metal and design but about the mystery, rarity, and allure that drives collectors to pay astronomical sums for what others may see as pocket change. And to understand the value of $12.6 million attached to this coin, we first need to remember what was happening in the numismatic world in the late 1980s and early 1990s, when the Lincoln cent had already gone through major changes since its introduction in 1909. Including the transition from copper to copper-plated zinc in 1982, a decision that would later cause its own set of problems such as plating bubbles, weak strikes, and die deterioration, which collectors today identify as signs of value when preserved in good condition. And in 1990 the U.S. Mint was producing pennies at an enormous scale, striking billions of them at facilities like Philadelphia and Denver. Yet even with all the precision of modern machinery, errors still slipped through, and these rare accidents created coins that were unlike the billions of their identical counterparts, giving us anomalies that are now seen as million-dollar treasures. And the 1991 cent is particularly famous for what is known as the no-S proof error, where proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint that were intended for collectors were accidentally released without the S mint mark, making them some of the rarest modern proofs ever made. And while many people know about proof sets, only a few collectors ever encounter such errors, and when they do, the value skyrockets, because a missing mint mark means the coin is instantly identifiable as an error and its rarity cannot be overstated, as only a small number of them exist. And if you combine that with high-quality strikes, mirror-like proof surfaces, and pristine preservation, you have a coin that stands out as one of the crown jewels of modern numismatics. But the 1990 penny story does not stop at the no-S proof, because circulation strikes also had their share of mishaps, including off-center strikes where the design is shifted so drastically that you can see blank areas of the planchet, double die errors where the lettering, numbers, or details appear doubled from a misaligned hubbing, and clipped planchets where parts of the coin appear sliced off due to improper metal cutting. And each of these errors, while minor to the average eye, can mean thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to serious collectors. And when a coin has a combination of rarity, error, and historical context, the price can escalate into the millions. And that is precisely why the 1990 penny with a valuation of $12.6 million stands as a symbol of how powerful the world of numismatics can be, because beyond its 1 cent denomination, it carries stories of minting mishaps, rarity and survival, and the constant hunt by collectors who dream of finding one tucked away in a box or jar. And let us imagine the possibilities for a moment: a coin struck off-center by 75% so that Lincoln's bust barely fits on the coin, or a double-struck example where the date, 1990, appears twice, slightly shifted and overlapped, or even a transitional error where an experimental planchet not meant for cents was accidentally used, producing a coin that looks and feels different from the standard issue. And these are not fantasy scenarios, because the history of minting errors proves that such strange events happen, and each time they do, the result is a piece of money that transforms into a piece of history. But what truly cements the value of the 1990 penny is the passion of collectors, the thrill of rarity, and the competitive nature of auctions where wealthy bidders drive up prices to secure ownership of something that may never appear again in their lifetimes. And in this world the phrase, "worth big money," is not an exaggeration, it is the reality. Because when two collectors with deep pockets both want the same coin, the price can leap to unimaginable levels, and this is exactly what happened when the 1990 no-S proof and other remarkable error pennies hit the auction block, setting record prices and gaining headlines that made even those outside the coin community take notice, sparking stories of everyday people checking their jars of pennies just in case they had one of these golden finds hidden in plain sight. And the beauty of this story is that it keeps the dream alive, because while only a handful of these errors exist, the possibility that someone might discover one keeps collectors and hobbyists searching, inspecting every detail under magnifying glasses, learning to spot doubling in the date or letters, checking for missing mint marks, or weighing coins to catch wrong planchets. And in this way, the 1990 penny is not just a story of one coin, it is a story of curiosity, persistence, and the endless hunt for treasures. And when we talk about $12.6 million, it is not just about the monetary value but about the recognition that errors, mistakes, and uniqueness have a worth that transcends their face value, turning 1 cent into a piece of art, history, and rarity. So as we reflect on this coin, its errors, its value, and its legacy, it becomes clear why numismatics continues to capture hearts around the world, because in a world where billions of coins are mass-produced, the few that deviate from perfection stand out as treasures. And the 1990 penny worth $12.6 million is perhaps one of the greatest examples of how mistakes can sometimes create masterpieces, and for collectors, historians, and dreamers alike, this coin is a reminder to keep searching, to keep looking closely, and to never underestimate the value that might be hiding in the most ordinary things, because sometimes, a penny really can be worth millions. And with that inspiring thought, I encourage you to stay curious, stay passionate about learning the stories behind the coins in your hands. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the remarkable world of the 1990 penny and its incredible value, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more fascinating coin stories, and join us on this journey through history, rarity, and the thrill of discovery. Today we are going to explore the fascinating history and hidden treasures of the 2005 D1 cent coin, a coin that has stunned collectors and enthusiasts across the world with a rumored value reaching as high as $3.53 million, and this incredible price tag is not simply due to age or the sheer volume of coins minted that year, but rather because of the unique errors, misstrikes, and production mishaps that have made certain examples of this penny some of the most desired pieces in the world of numismatics. And to understand why this is the case, we must take a journey back to 2005, a year when billions of pennies were produced at the Denver Mint, each bearing the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in use since 1959. And while most of these coins circulated normally, spending their lives clinking through cash registers and slipping into piggy banks, a handful emerged with bizarre imperfections that would later capture the imagination of collectors, because in the precise and controlled environment of a mint, errors are anomalies. They are unexpected products of machinery slips, die damage, or human oversight, and when these slips occur on a coin, they transform a piece worth 1 cent into an artifact that can command millions at auction. And that is exactly what has happened with some 2005 D1 cent coins, because experts discovered that certain examples exhibited dramatic double die errors on the obverse, where Lincoln's profile, the date, or the lettering around the rim appears doubled, creating a shadowy echo of the original design that collectors prize for its uniqueness and rarity. And not only were there doubled dies, but also misaligned strikes where the die did not land perfectly on the blank planchet, leading to off-center images that can be as little as a few percentage points askew or sometimes dramatically shifted so that half the design is missing. And coins with these types of errors immediately become standouts because they represent a perfect storm of rarity and intrigue. And then there are the striking instances of broad strikes, where the coin was not properly contained by the collar during striking, causing it to spread out wider and thinner than normal, often distorting Lincoln's image or stretching the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse into ghostly shapes. And because so few of these survive in pristine condition, they are regarded as some of the most valuable treasures a collector can hope to find. And to add to this, some 2005 D pennies have been reported with off-metal strikes, where the coin was mistakenly struck on planchets intended for other denominations, such as a dime or foreign coin blank, resulting in a penny-sized piece that weighs differently and looks completely unusual, a rarity that makes the value skyrocket when authenticated by grading services. And when you think about it, the $3.53 million price tag makes sense when considering the frenzy among wealthy collectors who are willing to pay astronomical amounts for a unique piece that no one else on Earth can own. because while ordinary coins are common, error coins are one-of-a-kind accidents of history, snapshots of imperfection that the mint never intended to release, and yet they escaped into circulation, often tucked away unknowingly in someone's pocket change for years before finally being recognized for what they are, and part of what makes the 2005 penny so appealing is its relative modernity, because collectors often expect older coins from the early 20th century to hold great value, but when a coin minted in the 21st century suddenly fetches millions, it shocks the market and renews interest in searching everyday change, reminding us that incredible treasures can still be discovered in circulation. And enthusiasts know to examine every detail of such a coin carefully, from the sharpness of Lincoln's bust to the clarity of the words "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 2005, because any doubling, stretching, missing letters, or misplaced mint marks can signify a major error, and some of the most valuable 2005 pennies are those that exhibit die breaks or cuds, where a piece of the die broke away during production, leaving a raised, blob-like feature on the coin that should not exist, often covering parts of the design and rendering the coin immediately recognizable as a mint mistake, and these cuds, along with die cracks that run like jagged lightning bolts across the coin's surface, add to the mystique and individuality of each specimen, meaning no two are exactly alike, and this uniqueness is what drives collectors to bid furiously at auctions, pushing prices from thousands into the millions. And we also cannot overlook the importance of condition, because while errors are rare, errors preserved in high grades, such as mint state 67 or higher, are rarer still, and when certified by top grading companies, they attract elite buyers willing to spend sums that sound unbelievable for a penny. And so, the tale of the 2005 1-cent coin valued at $3.53 million is not merely about metal and minting, but about the human fascination with rarity, the thrill of discovering something overlooked, and the prestige of owning a piece that so few in the world can claim. And it sparks the imagination to think that somewhere, hidden in jars of loose change, buried in drawers, or slipped unknowingly into circulation, there may still be examples of these extraordinary coins waiting to be found, and that is why collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people alike continue to examine their pennies closely, hoping that the next 2005 they hold might just contain one of those valuable errors that could change their lives forever, because history shows us again and again that mistakes often make the most beautiful stories, and in the world of coins, those mistakes are worth millions. And so as we reflect on the fascinating journey of this unassuming little penny, let it serve as a reminder that value is not always determined by design or intent, but sometimes by accident, and those accidents, frozen forever in copper-plated zinc, have written one of the most compelling chapters in modern numismatic history. And before you leave, if you've enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries and million-dollar secrets of the 2005 1-cent coin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of hidden treasures, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next journey into the fascinating world of rare coins.